Well, hello. Today we have a very special guest. I can't tell you how excited, but first, I'm looking good, feeling good, loving life. I hope you can say the same today. My guest, he is an international traveler, but most importantly, he is a huge Ring of Honor star. He is Mr. Shane Taylor. Shane?
Yo, my man.
I'm so happy to see you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
We got a lot to cover, so I want to jump right into it. How did the love of wrestling start for you?
The love of wrestling started for me very young. I remember my dad taking me to the Ridgefield Coliseum in Ohio, and I remember watching Kerry Von Erich against the Warlord go to a double countout and watching this building go absolutely bonkers. I mean, you're talking about grown men throwing stuff, kids losing their mind, women crying, whatever the case may be. And I thought to myself, I asked my dad, like, Dad, do they know them? And he said, no, son. And I just thought to myself, how can two people that nobody knows, nobody has any personal connection to, get this many people that upset? Whatever they do, I want to do that. So from then on out, it was nothing but watch and tape. We would order the pay-per-views. Growing up in Cleveland, we didn't have a lot of money. So each house, like my family, I was blessed enough to have family live close by, so each house would get like one pay-per-view, like one of the major ones. So then we would all just go to that house, and it'd be a madhouse for that time. But once that started, there was no turning back.
Did you have any favorites growing up?
Yeah, Ron Simmons was one of the guys that I looked up to. Stan Hansen was a big fan of Vader. Just those guys, because I was a big kid, those were guys that didn't have six-pack. Well, Ron did. Ron was jacked to the gills. But those were guys that were just big, tough guys that didn't take any crap, and they could just beat the hell out of you. So that's how I patterned my style.
Okay, so you're a WCW guy, I guess.
For the most part, yeah. I always loved the over-the-top presentation of what the WW, then F at the time, E now, what they presented. But I felt like WCW was the more meat and potatoes company, which is how I fell in love with wrestling, so that's what I wanted to do.
Stan Hansen, Ron Simmons, what attracted you to those type of guys? Those were rough, tough. I mean, what made them your favorite?
Stan Hansen, because he was just a guy that really he was a hard hitter, didn't really care who he was in there with. He would go toe-to-toe with whoever, and growing up in the city that I did, I had to fight a lot. Won some, lost some, but whoever it was, you couldn't back down. There was no room for weakness. There was no room for fear. So I respected that about him. And it was something that even him being a cowboy versus me being an inner city kid, while we don't live in the same world, you can respect the ideals that someone has or the way they live their life, the code they live by. And for Ron, and as you well know, being in this business, being a black guy in this business, is very hard to be successful and not fall into the stereotype trap. It's very hard to not go that route and let people place you in a box. And I feel like Ron Simmons was one of the first guys, at least to my knowledge, to really just be a good guy, be a hardworking athlete, not be a caricature of what black culture is, and reach the top of the mountain. It's very, very rare to see. And so for him to do that, for me to watch him do that, was very important to me, and that's something that I try my very best to follow in the footsteps of now. There's too many things that people see that tell them this is what black culture is, this is what you have to be, this is who you should be. Screw all that. I want them to be able to look at me and go, well, he's not like that, so if he can do it, then I can do it.
You had mentioned about being put in a box. Are there times that you felt like, I know we're jumping way ahead here,
of course,
but do you feel like there's been times where guys have tried to put you in a specific box, or you've been able to sort of escape that because of guys like Ron Simmons that set a different path?
I don't think they've tried to put me in a box, more so the company. I think the fans, when they're looking for reasons to interact with you, or they're looking for things to hold on to, invest in, they want to go with what's comfortable. And unfortunately, a lot of times what's comfortable isn't always what's right. They want to go with what's easy. They want to see you as, okay, well, I'm used to seeing people that look like you as gangsters, so can you be a gangster? So I can associate and I can put you where I need to in my mind, and I'm just not going to do that. If it means you have to watch me longer to get what I'm trying to give you, then that's just what you got to do. If that means you don't want to take the time to do that, then I understand. You're more than welcome to do that as well. But I'm not going to put myself in a box and affect other people for you to be comfortable with what you're looking at. I'm going to be me. I'm going to present my story the way it is. You can take it or leave it.
After some time, maybe as an adult, I'm not sure, you found out about independent wrestling. How did that come about?
That came about as I was going to my search of learning how to be a wrestler. I had ran into Ray Rowe and began talking to him. Obviously, Ray Rowe of War Machine, now War Raiders fame, NXT. I could list his accomplishments all day, but y'all already know. I was talking to him. I was talking to J-Rock about being trained. And then they told me about IWC right here, and I came out and saw them while I was living in Pittsburgh. Until then, I had no idea that independence even existed. But once I came, so okay, there's other ways to get to where I want to be. Because I didn't know how to get in touch with Vince. I didn't know how to get in touch with whoever, you know. So once I figured out that there were other places to go, that's when I really started to focus in on the independence.
What was your first impression of the independent wrestling scene? I mean, IWC is a great place to
good start, man.
Teeth,
it was a good start. I want to say the show that I was at had like Low-Key and AJ Styles and SJK, like all these guys that are now superstars across the globe. So I was introduced to this at a very high level. So what I saw was amazing, and I was like, okay, these guys are it. These are going to be the stars of tomorrow, the stars of the future, you know. And what I didn't realize is they were the stars of now, you know. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, I definitely got to make sure I come into this with a great game plan, and I start off on the right foot.
Where did you train at?
I trained in Cleveland, Ohio, under Ray Rowe and J-Rock. We would change buildings and all that, but we settled on a place that was on the west side, close to Lakewood, and it was awesome. I was just coming out of college, you know, wrestling in college, so the transition for me was pretty easy. Years of boxing and things like that, and athletics helped me sort of have an edge over the rest of the guys in my training classes. And once I was ready to start having matches, it was full go from there. Was
there anything in the early parts of the training that maybe was a little difficult for you, or you felt like you was sort of like a fish in water?
I mean, it's all difficult because you're learning something new, but I am the type of person, I pride myself on those challenges. When things are tough, those are moments that I shine the best, when my back is against the wall. So in a situation like that, whether it be being bruised from the ropes or, you know, those first few days of your body adjusting to hitting the mat, like, I just took that all in stride. So while it was tough, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it was easy for me, like, shit hurts, you know what I mean? But I think mentally I was just at such a point of, this is what I want to do, this is what I have to do it, so I wasn't going to let it bother me.
When you had your first match, do you have any specific memories of that first match?
It's all kind of a blur. I remember, what I vividly remember and what I take with me in every match now is the way I feel right before I hit the curtain. There's so much anxiousness, and not for fear of doing bad or anything like that, but because I love this so much and I give my all to it. I want to put on such a great performance. There is that nervous energy of, you know, can I go out there and give these people what they want to see? Can I go out there and make them feel like they spent their money wisely when they came to see me? And then the music hits, and it's autopilot from there. Like, you know what I mean? Like when your music hits, all of that goes away, the adrenaline kicks in, and you're ready to go.
Do you, when you had your first match, how long had you been training before your first match?
I want to say I was training about 6 months.
Did you feel like you were ready at 6 months?
I don't ever think anybody feels like they're ready for the first one, but my trainers did, and that's who I trusted. And they're seeing things that I'm not seeing. So as long as they said I was ready, then I must have been. So I was ready to go.
If it's a sore subject, you can tell me as much. But
okay.
Tell me, Jack Frost. What is that?
Whew. Going back a long time. The very first character that I tried was sort of an adaptation of what people thought. Just an over-the-top character based on my personality. Again, like I said, growing up in Cleveland, You have to be of a certain mentality to make sure no one can take advantage of you. So you have to be very cold-hearted. You have to be very calculating. You have to be very smart. You have to be very angry and sadistic at times, even as a young person. So all of that, I was starting to think, and the ideas that were thrown, well, cold-hearted, like cold, like ice and winter, and and it sort of evolved from that. And then once I realized, this is a terrible idea, I switched to Shane Taylor.
If I could send you back today, the guy right here, back to give advice to that guy in his first 6 months of being in the business, what advice would you give yourself?
Invest in Amazon and Google. But other than that, it would be to learn not to take things personally, to understand that rejection is going to be a part of this business. You're going to hear no. You're going to hear we don't know if you have it. You're going to hear all of those things. Some of the very best in our sport have heard those things before they got to where they were. My advice to myself would have been not to take that so personally, because I tend to do that even now. Coming from an athletic background, coming from a place of competition, when you put your all in and you want to see the results of that work, this isn't always a sport that allows that to be seen. This is a sport where sometimes other people's opinions determine your success. That's never been something for me that I've enjoyed, because if I put the work in, I don't care whose friend you are. I don't care who you're sleeping with. I don't care, how long you've known the guys that run the company. I'm putting the work in. I'm putting the matches in. I'm bringing the people in. That's my spot. That's what this work is for. So that can be frustrating. But I would go back to tell younger me, don't let that get you to a point or make you do anything that will stifle any further opportunity.
Before you made it to the level you're at now, you certainly spent quite a bit of time in Ohio and Western Pennsylvania here. Do you have any early memories of some of the good times that you may have had, or even the bad times for that matter, traveling the local sort of Western PA, Eastern Ohio circuit?
There's a lot of good times that I can't talk about for fear of incriminating myself. But I mean, a lot of the guys that I met here, I can consider lifelong friends, and I don't make friends easily. You'd be one of those guys, guys like John McChesney, Bill Collier, J-Rock, just to throw off the top of my head, guys that you travel up and down the roads with, you get to know their families, the ins and outs of who they are. Good nights, bad nights. Sometimes you got to slap a guy upside the head to get him back right. You know what I mean? Like it all comes with what we do, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood of the guys that, of that time when I was here. There's no replacing that. So I think the memories mostly of just hanging out with the guys and just shooting the shit and traveling are the memories I'm going to take with me.
So we're sort of jumping around again a bit, but you brought it up. You brought up Bill Collier. That's what made me think of it. I'm thinking about some of the talent here in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio, guys that I'm very familiar with and you're familiar with.
Right.
Are you surprised that there isn't more of the guys from this area that haven't maybe made it to your level? Like Bill Collier pops into my mind,
of course,
almost instantly, of a guy. Are you surprised, or do you have a reason why maybe you think some of these guys didn't make it to a bigger level?
All of this it's so subjective, and it's so based on who right place, right time stuff. There's no reason Bill shouldn't be there. He has every tool to be a big star on any stage he sets foot on. A lot of this is networking and being in front of the right people at the right time, and them having an idea to be able to use you in the right way. So there's a lot of moving parts that happen that go into something like that happening. I was in the right place at the right time when Ray brought me in the Ring of Honor. They saw me, they saw my tag team partner Keith, and they're like, okay, we can do something with this, and that's how I got there. And then once I was there, guys got to know me, and they saw the work, and they saw all of that, and then that's what helped me stay. So for a lot of guys, just getting that opportunity and getting a shot to be in front of those eyes, and them having an idea or sparking some sort of idea with the people that run the place, that's going to help.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, but I remember many a times you and I in a locker room like this, and me having a conversation with you saying, you know, nothing against the company we're at here, but you're so much better than this. You deserve so much more. Take a chance on yourself. I can tell you that this is not a conversation I've had with you exclusively. There's lots of guys that I've had this conversation with. But you are one of the very few guys that really took a chance on yourself. Why do you feel like, you know, what's different about you that made you be willing to take a chance on yourself?
I know what's waiting for me if I don't succeed at this. And growing up the way I did, I saw and had to do things that people in their life never even dream that they would have to do or that they would have to live through. I've seen, you know, I've had to bury best friends, I've had to bury family members, I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've had to hurt people to make sure I ate, I had to, you know, dodge bullets, you know what I mean? Like there's things that I still have nightmares to this day about, that I know if this isn't successful, that's the life that comes calling back. And my biggest inspiration now is my 3-year-old daughter, who's never had to see any of that stuff. She's never experienced that. All she knows is the suburbs of Houston and playing with her friends outside and enjoying great weather. And that's all I ever wanted to know. So my motivation and what changed things for me is I had the why to do it. And a buddy of mine, Scott Summers in Texas, always reminds me, he goes, find your why, and no matter what it is, on the days you don't feel like going to the gym, on the days you wake up sore as hell, on the days that you're, you know, you're telling yourself, yo, enough is enough, think back to your why and get up and go do what you got to do. So I think that's what separates me from everybody else.
2013, I think it was, is when you moved to Texas, correct?
Yeah, late end of 2013, 2014, yeah.
Okay, so that was a big chance.
It was.
At the end of the day, it was a big risk for you because you were comfortable here.
Yeah.
But what was that experience like for you when you first moved to Texas?